working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development of your community and our beautiful Twin Island Federation. Working for you is weekly, every Wednesday live from 1:30 p.m. to 3 p.m. on ZIZ Radio, Win FM, and Sugar City FM with rebroadcast on participating stations. Working for you.
Good afternoon, and I welcome you to Working for You. I am Lesroy Williams. Thank you very much for tuning in to today's program. We appreciate your company very much. Today we are going to be discussing tourism. Of course, we cannot underscore enough how important our tourism product is to our own development here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Tourism, of course, is the mainstay of our economy. Having done away with sugar in 2005, we are now in a services economy, and it is important how we go about protecting that service-based economy and promoting it as well. Today I have with me guests from the Ministry of Tourism. Some of them are not new to this panel, and others are new. But I will introduce them for you. I will start with Tishana Sider Jenkins, who is Events Specialist and Heart of St. Kitts Foundation Coordinator. Tishana, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Then Dianeel. Dianeel has been here several times before. She's a veteran on this program. Dianeel Taylor Williams, who is Assistant Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism, and she's also Chairperson of the Sustainable Destination Council, which we will hear more about. Then we have, of course, Therese Ambrose Versailles, and she is Tourism Research Education Officer. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Then we have Charlene. Welcome. Welcome. Look at that.
Thank you.
Okay, so there are a number of things that we have to discuss today. Of course, things happening in the Ministry of Tourism, a very vibrant ministry indeed, because tourism, of course, is on the boom, is rising in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so, of course, your ministry is kept very busy. Now, some time ago, I think it was last year, we started hearing about the importance of not polluting our environment with plastic. Plastic pollution and all the detriments of plastic pollution. And we started saying we need a plastic-free St. Kitts and Nevis. I understand that that is being continued because we have to keep the awareness going. Dianeel, could you tell us more about Plastic-Free SKN and some of the activities that you have planned to promote?
As you said, Mr. Williams, last year when we were doing our second edition of the Plastic Free July Challenge, the feedback we got indicated to us that it should not end in July. As a matter of fact, as a small island developing state, we should be paying more attention to reducing the amount of plastic waste that we generate. And so at the ministry and in our destination council, we came up with the idea that we should push forward and make the entire year 2019 a plastic free year. And when we say plastic free, because I can imagine people are already beginning to say plastic free, I have all of these things made of plastic. Even cars are made with plastic. We are speaking specifically to single-use plastic we are encouraging persons to reduce the use of single-use plastics. And we've begun doing several things. As a matter of fact, for persons who would have participated in Carnival, we started there. We partnered with Cooler Fet and Flatline, and we donated some reusable cups. Yes, they're made of plastic, but they're reusable. The idea being that persons who would have attended that event would have had a cup that they would receive at the bar, which they can use throughout the night. Because very often during Carnival, you receive a drink in the plastic cup, and you dispose of it sometimes without thinking, and you go back for a drink sometimes, and very often the same drink, and you get another cup because they're given, right? And what we were saying is that for these events, maybe what we should do is encourage persons to reuse their cups. And so we partnered with Cooler Fet and Flatline, and we gave cups for their event, for the all-inclusive and the VIP sections. We then went on at the beginning of January. We said we wanted to do something that would show people what we are talking about, and we had a float as a part of the Carnival parade. It depicted a turtle being entangled in a wave of plastic. And the thing to note about this is that all of the plastic that was used on that float was the plastic that we gathered from the beaches of St. Kitts and Nevis. In addition to that, this is the same plastic that was used in our exhibit at the museum last year, July. So we have not disposed of our plastic. We continue to recycle the plastic. As a matter of fact, in our meeting, we were talking about getting the most out of that float. So every opportunity we get when there's a festival, we want to display the float, showing people what we call the wave of change. And that is what we are promoting this year, Plastic Free SKNE, a wave of change, changing the way we do things and the way we generate waste, right? We also partnered in January with Jurade. They had their after Carnival Fete, and we also did cups for Jurade. There are two colors. But the good thing about their cup was those were considered mood cups. Why they're considered mood cups? Because when you put cold liquids, it changes color.
Oh.
So for people going to parties, that's something really attractive. And we wanted to encourage people to do the same thing. Have the same cup throughout the event so that it reduces the amount of single-use plastics being generated from that event. But it's not going to end there. We are also having other cups that we will be distributing at other events. For example, this week, Saturday, the Business and Professional Women's Club, they are promoting women's clinics, free women's clinics, and we are partnering with them, and we have another cup that we will be giving to the first 50 persons for each of the free clinics that they're having for this month. One will be on the 9th, one will be on the 16th, and one on the 23rd. The first 50 patrons to that event will receive a reusable cup, so that the refreshment that is shared at that event, they will be given the cup to use. And this is part of their own mandate, and that is what we are doing with Plastic Free SKN. It's not about the Ministry of Tourism or the Sustainable Destination Council taking up these activities and creating the awareness on their own. It is about a consolidated effort, and an effort that is collaborative. We want to partner with other persons who are undertaking other activities where there's the opportunity to spread the message to reduce the amount of single-use plastics that we generate. We also have reusable bags, shopping bags, which were donated to us by the Marva Weeks Foundation in Florida. And these bags, we are saying, we want to be able to give to persons so that when they go to the supermarkets, although it's not law, we want to start people getting to thinking about taking their bags, because in our neighboring islands, that is the way things are. You have to take your bag, or you will have to take your goods in your hands, or you'll have to pay for a bag. So we are encouraging our persons, the people here, to get the reusable shopping bags so that they can begin to take it. I've been asked several questions, even from the beginning of January. What is government doing in terms of reducing single-use plastics? We don't need to wait for government to tell us not to do it, because for our own health's sake, we should be considering reducing the amount of single-use plastics that we are sending not only to the landfill but into our oceans. And whatever goes into those places become a part of us. As a matter of fact, and for those of us, I notice it's still in the movies, the movie Aquaman, the queen in that movie said, the land and the ocean are one. Right? The land and the ocean are one. So we cannot divorce ourselves from our marine life. And therefore, it would be best for us to reduce the amount of plastics that we have going into the ocean and into our environment.
Right. Now, the world is moving towards being plastic free. And the movement is gathering steam all across the world. Plastic is cheap. It's cheap to produce, and it's very cheap. But there are many detrimental effects to plastic pollution. Could you tell us what some of the others are? You spoke about polluting the ocean, which then affects sea life, and so on. What are some of the other detrimental effects?
Plastic pollution, the makeup of plastic itself, the chemicals used in producing plastics have been found in many cases to cause problems with people's health. And as a matter of fact, we are all mindful when we go to buy bottles, especially mothers, when they have babies, they're looking for the bottles that say BPA free. But there are other chemicals inside that same bottle which are equally detrimental to people's health as BPA. But no alarm has been raised about the other chemicals. So we are mindful of the fact because an alarm was raised about BPA. And so we look for the plastic bottles that are BPA free. But there are other things that are chemicals inside the plastics that affect people's health. The other thing is that it gets into the environment. I remember someone saying to me, oh, well, if it doesn't go into the ocean and it's at the landfill, it doesn't affect us. But if it goes into the ground, over time, the plastic breaks down and the chemicals leach into the ground and into our water system because we rely a lot on groundwater. So then the plants, because you're saying, oh, I will stop eating fish. But the plants are going to be uptaking the chemical that is really, right, the toxic chemicals that are released into the ground when they feed. The fruits will then have the results of those chemicals inside of them, and then we will eat the fruit and that will affect us. The other interesting thing about the problem with plastic is that the very same plastic that has been found in some cases to cause cancer also inhibits radiation from working on cancer patients. So it causes you to get cancer, and when you find a treatment through radiation, it blocks the radiation from working on you. So we can see that plastic, while durable in the sense that it lasts long, the effects are also durable in terms of people's health and the environment in which we live.
So it threatens wildlife.
Yes.
It piles up in the environment, we can say.
Right.
We can say it spoils our groundwater.
Water.
You said. It also poisons our food chain. And it does not break down.
As a matter of fact, they said the first set of plastics plastics became popular in the 1950s. And we actually had a picture because we just had a training session on plastics. And there's a picture of a yogurt from the Olympics in the 1960s. They found that on a beach. This is 2019. And you can still find it. It hasn't broken down completely. That is what happens with plastic. It takes thousands of years to break down. It stays in the environment. It stays around like a sore thumb. It sticks out because it's not going away very quickly. And that's the same thing that we need to be mindful of.
It's made from petroleum.
Petroleum. That is another reason why it is said that plastic is cheap. Because in many cases, the petroleum industry is subsidized, which reduces the cost of producing it. And so, if you're producing petroleum to produce plastic, of course plastics would become cheap as well.
Yes. So how does that directly relate to our tourism? We speak about a plastic-free SK. What are the benefits of that to our tourism?
Besides the fact that it is unsightly, and so, for example, I heard a friend of mine who was here visiting recently who had gone to the beach. There was plastic floating in the water. People who are traveling to come to St. Kitts and Nevis are not going to want to leave with the United States or Canada or Europe to come to a beach that is full of plastic. They are also mindful of their health. People who travel to Mexico often hear of Montezuma's revenge when you talk about the water and the sickness. If we start having our water, our groundwater infiltrated by the chemicals in plastics and people start getting ill, they're not going to come here, right? The food, people are traveling from those places to come to the Caribbean because they want to eat seafood. They want to taste our lobster. But if the turtles, for example, suffer because of the plastic in the ocean, they die out, the reefs will not be able to help with the new life in terms of lobsters and small fish, because that's the breeding ground for those things. But the turtles are like the sheep of the coral reef. They keep them moored. So they keep the algal growth low in order for the reef to breathe, because reefs are breathing organisms. If they're dead, then no sea life will be in the area of the reefs. And so we need to make sure that we reduce the amount of plastics that affect the animals, the marine life around St. Kitts and Nevis. So aside from being unsightly, it reduces their food, it creates health hazards, and so there's so many ripple effects. So one thing leads to another, which will impact the numbers of persons, because people are sometimes getting away from a place where they too have the problem of plastics. You're coming to paradise because that's what people see the Caribbean as. It's paradise. Paradise is not supposed to have garbage. It's not supposed to affect your health. It's supposed to be perfect. And that's basically what people are traveling with in their minds.
So it threatens
the industry.
And not just the industry, but the sustainability of it.
Exactly. Livelihoods will be threatened.
Right.
And once you have that, if you're going to affect the social side of things, the environmental side of things, and the economy, then there's no sustainability.
Right.
So that's basically it.
And that's where we want our tourism to go.
Exactly.
Everything today is about sustainability. We're not just thinking in terms of now, but we're thinking 50 years down the road.
Right.
You know, we want to leave behind something positive.
Exactly.
And it's the positive impacts upon the tourism industry that we want.
Exactly.
And to filter out all that is negative.
Exactly. And that is what we're working towards.
Now, is the ministry doing anything in terms of paving the way for legislation with respect to plastic?
The work that we're doing in terms of creating the awareness goes to the issue of having policy, but we have to be mindful. We are the Ministry of Tourism, and our focus is on visitors. We would not want our residents to think that we are doing anything for visitors, because as a matter of fact, the Sustainable Destination Council, which is the SDC, the advisory body to the ministry, our tagline is good for us. The us in this is the residents, better for all. We want to make St. Kitts a good place for us to live,
yes,
and to work, and for people to experience. So yes, we will work with whomever we have to work with, whether it's another government agency, the private sector, to ensure that this gets done. It does not mean that the Ministry of Tourism has to lead. You don't have to be in at the forefront to get things done, because we are not doing it mainly for visitors. We are doing it for our people. That's the first thing we have people to understand, is that it is for us first and foremost, and once it's done for us and we are in a good position, then we are able to share it with those who come to experience it.
Right. We don't have to wait for legislation.
Exactly.
Definitely legislation helps.
Yes.
And the way that many countries are going is that they're putting legislation in
place.
And with legislation in place, you can have enforcement
Right.
of that legislation.
Right.
And eventually, I think that is where we'll have to go.
Yes.
Some countries in the Caribbean have already started doing it, putting legislation in place in terms of banning
Banning
plastics
plastics.
and so on, and using biodegradable material
Right.
and all of that sort of a thing. And it can only redound really to their good
Exactly.
in terms of the tourism product.
But we also do not want to end up in a situation where what we have seen in some countries where there was not enough awareness and people were not prepared, and so people were up in arms once the legislation was passed. In St. Kitts and Nevis, we are doing it differently. We are preparing our people now. We are creating the awareness. We are telling them what the alternatives are, because that has been the complaint in some countries. People did not know. Yes, we understand plastic is bad, but what do we use instead? And so we are sharing information with the public about the alternatives in terms of plastics. We
Yes.
are accustomed to having the water bottles. What can we do instead of getting a whole case of small water bottles? Maybe each person brings their own water bottle and get a refill of the water. The shopping bag, we used to do it before. You had your shopping bag at home. You went to buy bread at the bakery with a bag that was made out of flour bag. So we were recycling the flour bags. After the flour would have come here in one bag, it was taken and used to make another bag, which could be used over and over for people going to shop. And those are the kind of things that we are encouraging people, because what we have discovered is that the rate of extraction of resources from the earth is much faster than the rate at which we are replacing it. We are not replanting trees as fast as we are cutting them down. We are extracting petroleum, but what are we doing? Is there anything that can be done to ensure that there's more? Because those things are finite,
Yes.
right? And that is what we are saying to people, that we have to be mindful of these things that you're taking out. You're constantly taking out. Eventually, there'll be none left.
You know, while we speak about sustainability, of course, we know it is linked to the environment and how we care and how we protect the environment. But it's much more than that as well,
course.
because we can think about heritage tourism and how we protect our cultural heritage and all of that sort of a thing.
Exactly.
But we will move on and
Yes.
come back to you. I am going to speak now about the Heart of St. Kitts Foundation. The Heart of St. Kitts Foundation, and you are celebrating a week. What I want you to tell me is, what is the Heart of St. Kitts Foundation? What is it responsible for? And what are some of the activities that you will have throughout the week? So, Ms. Jenkins?
The Heart of St. Kitts was established in 2016 under the directions of the Ministry of Tourism, with partnership with Sustainable Destination Council, SDC, and the Sustainable Travel International. We're now celebrating our third year, from February 23rd to March 3rd. We're going to have a week of activities to commemorate that. We're going to start off with a beach cleanup at the Heritage Beach in Cayenne. And we're going to have a Thanksgiving service at the Antioch Baptist Church. Media tours, and we're celebrating a plastic-free day. We're also going to have some Port Santé outreach, where we're going to highlight our cultural aspect on Port Santé to entice the tourists to want to donate to the foundation. We're also having a fitness session, which is going to be headed by Elsa Nisbet. And we're also going to be featuring two of the music festival local artists. One who is H.E. Ruckus and Akayu Sweet. And we're encouraging everyone to register for that activity for your chance to win a music festival ticket. We're also going to partner with HTA, that's the Hotel Tourism Association, to have a hike at the St. Mary's Nature Trail. What we want to highlight with the Heart of St. Kitts is that our mission is to build awareness for sustainable priorities in the island, which provide local funding for projects that will make St. Kitts a more sustainable place to live and experience. We focus on coastal and marine
Habitats.
Yes. And we want to improve waste management and preserve our local cultural and heritage sites, and also to support new community-driven tourism products. One of our activities mainly for the Heart of St. Kitts Week is the Soca Size. We're raising money for the St. Christopher National Trust Spooner's Cotton Ginnery Project. We're providing all the signage, so all the donation that's made for that event particular will be put towards that project.
Okay. Now the heart. What can you tell us about the heart in tourism?
Well, the heart is us.
People.
So tell me more about the heart.
The heart is
Affairs of the heart. That's what I want to hear.
the heart is the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have to teach our people more sustainable practices in order to make St. Kitts a better place for the tourists to experience. And we do that by investing in a lot of community projects and by empowering our people to be more sustainable in their everyday lives.
You know, the heart is that symbol of love. Corazon, mi
Yes.
corazon. You hear it all the time in, these Spanish songs. They speak a lot about mi corazon. It's the love.
Yes.
And tourism without love. You spoke about it. The love for your country. If you love your country, you're not going to pollute your country.
Very well, yes. That is true.
Also, when visitors come here, they expect the warmth of the people, the love of the people, the friendliness of the people,
Yes.
the embrace of the people.
Yes, and we have to practice what we preach. We can't expect the visitors to take part in plastic-free activities if we are not doing it. So they're going to mimic us. We have to show example. We have to be the example for the visitors.
Right. And then the heart, love, and love demonstrates itself in service to one another.
Yes.
And we are basically, tourism is a service-oriented industry. And so therefore our service must be one that is hearty. That is how I read it.
Yes.
So the heart is extremely important in everything.
Everything keeps the body.
We must have the right heart.
Yes.
And I don't think that heart thing came up just like that. There must have been a lot of thought put into it. The heart of St. Kitts Foundation. That heart. Good. Now, tourism, since it is our main income earner, there has to be a lot of awareness around tourism. Where do we start? We start with in the home by teaching our children how to be hospitable.
Yes.
Please, thank you, good morning. Sometimes I really wonder why sometimes people who are working in certain places, we're into tourism, and the behavior is so brash. The behavior is so crude. The social skills as a paucity. That cannot be sustainable tourism. Because when people leave here, they're going to go back and they're going to tell the people where they come from. We don't have no behavior.
That is so true.
Word of mouth
Best.
is still one of the best ways to promote a country,
And least expensive.
and least expensive. So we have to be at the top of our game in this industry. Where do we start? We have to start with socializing our people, educating our people, and I think that is where the tourism education program comes in. So Shailene, I want you to tell me a bit about the tourism education program.
Our tourism education program. Our tourism education officers not only go to the schools to teach about the importance of tourism, but we also highlight the role that the students play in tourism itself. And with that, we throw in as well sustainable tourism, how we can all maintain the beauty of St. Kitts. With the tourism education program, we presently have 6 schools in the program, 4 primary schools, 1 secondary school, and 1 tertiary school. For the primary schools, we have Dr. William Connor, Tyrrell Williams, Tucker Clark, and Sandy Point Primary. And the secondary would be Bastia High. Tertiary would be Avec. We presently have approximately 300 students in the program. This is our 3rd year of having tourism education in the schools. And over the past few years, we would say that it was quite progressive. We would have had certain things come out of the tourism ed program, like etiquette and customer service, good behavior practices. We would have taken the children to various sites, part of our tourism product tour. We would have engaged the students in projects that would involve sustainable tourism, like I have here. I brought some stuff. Like I have here some scrapbooks that were creatively done by the students, and this was from one of our latest projects that it stated how does pollution affect land and coastal areas and the negative impact that it would have on our tourism industry. And secondly, the second part to that was that the students were supposed to create a souvenir made of recycled waste. They used either plastic bottles, styrofoam, wood, or rubber, but most emphasis was placed on plastic. Here we have a pair of earrings that were made from plastic bottles, and I'm talking about students who are in grade 5, ages 10 and 11, coming up with such creative items such as these. We're preparing them for what is to come next. These students, not only did they make the items and compose the scrapbooks, but they also took the opportunity to stand in front of each classmate and present their souvenirs that were made just in the same way that they would actually present it to fellow persons in the country or tourists, and they were able to say what it was made of, etc. Right? What we do is we try to build some sort of interest in the school with the tourism education program, so that we are preparing our tourism ambassadors, we'd like to say, right? These are the students who would go out in the communities and join community groups, help to beautify our communities, help to reduce waste. Some of these students would go home and they would encourage persons within their families not to do certain things once it is taught to them. So it starts in the schools. It is sensitized from the teachers as well around the schools. They take it back to their homes, and then when the parents themselves see how enthused these children are about tourism, then they themselves become very involved. Because when I look at some of these projects that were actually done, you can see the involvement of the parent itself and the creativity. Everything on this was reused. This is actually a folder that the student used. But then look at this. This is from coconut. This is from the sea, right? And this is some of the things that we love to see happening. We have, and it's much more than this that we actually had, but this is just a sample. This is a souvenir that a child made using plastic spoons and Q-tip. And this is, she has magnets on the back of it, which once you leave St. Kitts, you must know that it's from St. Kitts because she had it nicely labeled with St. Kitts at the back, etc. So these are just some of the things that we're preparing them for with the tourism education program.
Right. One of the things that I was impressed with coming out of the high school was the Miss Talented Teen. And in fact, the costume segment of it was about plastic-free SKN, and the costumes were actually so beautiful. They were all made of plastic. Are you aware of this?
I love them all. When I looked at it online, I saw the use of the plastics, and then you have to wonder, how did they actually get this to hold like that? It was so creative. You would think that some of these children actually had ideas of their own, how to do their costumes and stuff like that. The fact that they use plastic bottles means that the sensitization process has already begun, and it's sinking in with our society education program.
Right. One of the things that I was impressed with coming out of the high school was the Miss Talented Teen. And in fact, the costume segment of it was about plastic-free SKN, and the costumes were actually so beautiful. They were all made of plastic. Are you aware of this?
I love them all. When I looked at it online, I saw the use of the plastics, and then you have to wonder, how did they actually get this to hold like that? It was so creative. You would think that some of these children actually had ideas of their own, how to do their costumes and stuff like that. The fact that they use plastic bottles means that the sensitization process has already begun, and it's sinking in with our society.
That's right. It wasn't even bottles, it was, plastic bags and so on that they used
Some had plastic
to make
bags.
this costume and so on. I mean, I was really impressed. I mean, I was a judge, not for that segment, but I was impressed by it.
We were impressed as well. As a matter of fact, each participant were given one of our reusable kits, as we call it, with our stainless steel cups, stainless steel straws, and the reusable shopping bags. We have a little clip with them now. They are now our ambassadors in terms of beating plastic pollution. As a result of that, we were quite pleased, because it means that what we are trying to do in getting our people aware has been resonating, because that became the theme for the Talented Teen competition this year.
Right. Okay, so you have a curriculum in the tourism education program, which would include, you spoke about some of them, the sustainability,
Sustainable tourism.
keeping your country clean. What are some of the other?
We have the tourism product. What are the 4 A's of the tourism product?
What are they?
Accessibility, accommodation, amenities, and attractions.
Okay.
And so we give the students an opportunity to explore all 4 areas of the tourism product, because they themselves must start to build some sort of appreciation for what we have as our main industry, tourism. So we take them out to various places. We have stakeholders who are more than happy and on board with us to give the students that opportunity. That's one. We also have
Tourism.
we have other projects, some of which, like Mrs. Versailles is going to speak of, agro-tourism projects that they're involved with. We do classroom sessions. We also have stakeholders who come to the classroom, and they give a bit of information as to the various careers in tourism, because some students would actually think, and I think it's a common thing for us to look down on some of the careers in tourism when everything goes hand in hand. So to some persons, you can't have a degree and be working in a restaurant. Then who would serve us? Who would serve our tourists? And so what we do, we try as much as possible to have the children involved with different areas.
You made a good point, and I think some of it has to do with a mentality, and that is that of service and servitude. You know, some people believe that, you know, to serve you is that you are
Inferior.
debasing yourself, and it is not self-debasement at all. In fact, we should be people of service
Yeah.
to each other. You are not lowering yourself. In fact, you are lifting yourself.
Yourself, exactly.
But sometimes it is not viewed like that. How do you teach the children about service and how service helps them to develop as young people?
That all comes in classes that we have on a daily basis. We would see some of the service that they give to peers themselves. So it's good behavior and etiquette practices. We have a theory session, and we also have a practical session where we take them out to a stakeholder restaurant and we have them practice. We have servers serving them how they should actually behave. And so we give them an opportunity to display that sort of behavior in a very formal way. So we have a etiquette banquet for them at the end of the tourism education program, and our students look forward more than anything to that banquet. They work extremely hard during the tourism ed program to ensure that at the end of all of it, I do not miss out on the tourism ed banquet. So at the end of all of that, they're rewarded. So we do get a difference in behavior because of all of this leading up to the banquet.
Good. Now, Therese, you're an education officer and you also do research. And one of the projects that you have been involved in is really trying to show the link between agriculture and tourism, what we call agro-tourism. How are you going about doing that?
It is a timely project for us in the schools because of the fact we just acquired, we are partnering with our stakeholder, the Department of Agriculture, with the St. Kitts Eco Park. And we want to get away from the stigma that working in the agriculture in field is the basing. So we want to show students that once you have a product, what can you do with it after? Once you've harvested your food, how can you market it to the product, to your customers, not only to the locals, but to visitors who come here. Because mind you, they come here to experience our food. This is one of the biggest money earners in the tourism sector. So for them to see it, to actually work in it and work with their hands in a practical way, they can see the linkages that we can have between the tourism sector and the agricultural sector. So right at this present time, it's we're getting our feet wet with a project in the Bassett High School, where they will have we've identified a little area in the back for them to do their gardening. They have selected we narrowed it down to 3 vegetables that they would like to produce. We have to say thank you to Mr. Oswald Brown and Eric Brown and Mr. Stuart Versailles at the Department of Agriculture for helping us fleshing out our idea. Obviously, we are not expert in that field, so we have to seek them out, and they have told us what we need to get, how we should engage with the students. And for now, it's like a pilot program for now, but the real program will start in September, the new scholastic year for the program.
Now, of course, agrotourism has different definitions. We can speak about the linkage in terms of food and what we grow and all of that, and how it really can be used as food for tourists. On the other hand, is that other component where farms and so on are also places of attraction
Yes, it is.
for tourists, and so you can go to visit.
Yes, it is.
You can go to visit the
Yes, it is.
farms. Seems as you wanted to say something.
As I said earlier, we need to get away from the idea that somebody who works in agriculture is not educated or considered not educated. But we need to now start to think of agriculture as a business, and by doing so, you become more sustainable. You become more hospitable. You have the farm to table experience where visitors can come in, they can pick their own fruit or fish if they want to,
Right.
and prepare it, and you have the experts there who can assist them, and that is in itself a money earner for persons in the village. You create a form of community type tourism,
Yeah,
based tourism.
because let's face it, in some countries, I mean, we live in the tropics, and in some countries, they don't grow the fruits that we have.
Yeah.
Right.
But they are exported to those countries. For example, mangoes and maybe bananas and things like that. So some tourists are very interested, for example, of actually seeing the mango tree and the mango on the tree. Because they've never seen a mango on a tree. You know, and a soursop, and actually they want to meet the farmers.
Yes.
You know, and things like that. So it is quite interesting.
And we've seen tour operators actually park their vehicles at the side of the road where you have animals roaming for visitors to come out and take a photo of a sheep or go. So this in itself is something for them. It's a new experience because obviously where they live, they don't see these things.
It's a new experience,
Right.
and that is what I think we have to look for more,
Yes.
Dianil, in our tourism product. What we call the niche. Our niche markets. We have to look more for those things.
Yes.
You know, what is actually unique to our tourism.
That's where the heart comes in.
That's where the heart.
Because we are selling experiences.
Yes, yeah.
Because let's look at it. We can think of the commonality in the Caribbean of what we all have, the sand, the sea, and the sun. But we have to look for other ways of diversifying our tourism product. And I think agritourism is one way, and also out of that I think comes sustainable agriculture.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Because you want the skills, all skills and knowledge are transferable. So whatever we try to teach them in the school, even if you may not end up in the tourism field, learning about customer service, learning about host and guest relationship, all these skills are transferable in whatever field you decide to go into afterwards. And that is what we hope the
Right.
program accomplishes at the end of it.
Right. So education socializes us.
Yes.
Primary socialization is in the family.
Yes.
That is where you really learn. You know, it's your first school, it is your first church, it is your first courtroom,
True.
the family. But when
Yes.
you go to school, you build on that.
Yes.
They do.
You know, and you're socialized and you meet people and you know how to speak to people and how to greet people and all of that sort of a thing. So tourism really is nothing new, you know. Tourism has always been around, is nothing new. And one of the ways I think you'll agree with me, Dianil, that we can be kind to others is think of ourselves. We are also tourists when we travel abroad, and we want other people to be kind to us. Isn't that so?
Yes.
Yes. Exactly.
So it's the golden rule.
Rule.
Yes.
Do unto others
That's
what
what
you
I
would
said.
want them done to you. Now, what about recycling?
With respect to recycling, we do not have a program, a recycling facility in St. Kitts. What we have are persons, I know for example, Admirals collects recyclables and they compact them and then ship them. So that is one of the things that we are looking at. Because of the size of the country, we might not be in a position to have a recycling facility because of the amount of waste that we would generate for such a small population. Although some may argue we do generate even more than some other larger populations. But in the meantime, people are encouraged to take their recyclables, plastics, glass bottles, corrugated cardboard, and aluminum cans. They can take them to Admirals
Yes.
for shipping. The challenge that we have here is that people are asking what's in it for me, because if I take my bottles to Caribou, I'm gonna get a little 10 cent or 25 cents. We are not at that position with plastics as yet, where enough is being generated so that the person who is collecting it can give something. But if we think of it in terms of our own health and environment, we would be willing to part with these plastic bottles because we're not keeping them. They're going to end up in the ocean and in the other places in the environment. So if we can take them, or as a matter of fact, in speaking to admirals, he's willing to collect them. So if people, for example, in a community got together and got a bin and put all their recyclables inside that bin, he's willing to collect it. You just have to call them and they'll come and collect it. The thing is, we are getting rid of the waste because it's going to be around for a long time. There are other places, for example, other islands where they do recycling. I've heard of one facility in Trinidad that takes recyclable plastics and make them into tables and chairs for schools. Those are things that can be done, but somebody has to come up with the idea of doing this, and it doesn't have to be government. That is exactly why we are promoting this plastic free challenge. We don't have to wait for government to legislate everything. We can do it ourselves. We can police ourselves. It is about me. You're asking what's in it for you when you reduce the amount of plastics? Your own life, right? You're saving your own life. So we are encouraging you to do it and not think about a cash return, but the in-kind return. Isn't your life worth more than cash? And so if there's an opportunity, Admirals is doing it. It doesn't mean that Admirals can be the only person. Here's another entrepreneurial opportunity. Somebody else do it as well. Collecting recyclables and having them compacted and shipped to be recycled. So we don't have that issue. As a matter of fact, we're diverting some of the waste from going down to solid waste so that it reduces the headache they have as to where all of this waste is going to go. Because we only have to take a pass and look at the landfill and see the mountain that is growing. And this is the second area. If we continue to generate the amount of waste that we are currently generating, we can have major problems in terms of the health of the people and also in terms of the economy. Our livelihood will suffer because we'll have to keep looking for places to create new landfill. And we don't have a lot of space.
Okay, now St. Kitts and Nevis is moving along, and we have been the recipients many awards. Others we have been nominated for, and so on. Now the World Travel and Tourism Council has nominated us as a finalist in the Destination Stewardship category Tourism for Tomorrow Awards. Tell me more about this.
The WTTC Tourism for Tomorrow Awards, actually, that's the most prestigious. It has been described as the top accolade in sustainable tourism globally. Little St. Kitts, with its Sustainable Destination Council, has been nominated as a finalist in the category that you mentioned in terms of destination stewardship. And this category speaks about organizations that help to a place to thrive and bring forward its unique identity for the benefit of residents and tourists. Notice we're not leaving out the residents. Whatever is being done must be done for residents and tourists. We are up against the organization called Grupo Rio de Prata from Brazil and Masungi Georeserve from the Philippines. Little St. Kitts Nevis is up against those countries, those organizations in those larger countries. As a matter of fact, only 2 Caribbean countries have made it to the finals for the Tourism for Tomorrow Awards. Aruba, a resort in Aruba has made it on the climate action category. So outside of St. Kitts Nevis and Aruba, no other Caribbean island is featured in the 15 awards, in the 15 list of finalists, the list of 15 finalists for the Tourism for Tomorrow Awards. It's a big deal. As a matter of fact, one of our international partners said to us, do you understand what this is? This is like the Grammy or the Emmy of sustainable tourism. It's a big deal. Even if you don't win, just being a finalist for the Tourism for Tomorrow Awards is a big deal. You get international recognition. As a matter of fact, I think just about a week after it was announced that the Sustainable Destination Council made it as a finalist, there was a journalist from Canada in my office asking about the Sustainable Destination Council and what we do. And this is only just the beginning. We next have an assessment of what we said in our claims. So when we sent in our nomination, we made certain claims. We are doing certain things. Plastic Free July. They're going to come and verify at the end of this month that what we presented to them is actually the case. After that, the final decision is made as to who wins the award. And then we get to travel to Spain to receive the award. Whether you are the winner or not, you have to travel to Spain as a finalist. So that's the next step, and that takes place in April. But for St. Kitts and Nevis, this has placed us on the map. I mean, this event is being sponsored by some of the top media houses, including the UK Telegraph. They're going to be covering the event. There's also going to be the summit, the World Travel and Tourism Council Summit taking place at the same time. And just yesterday, I was taking a look at the event, and I found out that in order to go to this event, somebody who is not a member of the WTTC, and St. Kitts and Nevis is not a member, to attend this event normally would be $4,000 just to be at the summit. But because we are now finalists, we don't have to worry about having to pay that cost. We are automatically into the summit, where you get to meet global leaders in world travel and tourism. So when I'm talking about tourism, I'm not talking about resorts or just destinations. You have cruise lines, you have airlines. Their top executives are the persons who will be at the event or who will be presenting at this event. This is a big step forward for Little St. Kitts.
Right. Yes, this is marketing St. Kitts. Yeah, right. As a sustainable destination. Now, the World Travel and Tourism Council, for our listeners, you can go to their website and you can find there the economic impact 2018 for St. Kitts and Nevis. It's the World Travel and Tourism Council Economic Impact 2018 for St. Kitts and Nevis. They have all of the countries and how tourism or travel and tourism impacts countries in terms of their gross domestic product, the employment, and all the impacts. Right. So the studies are done, and you can go there to see for yourself. We have to go to the phone lines. So we are going to open the lines. The numbers to call are 465-2555, 465-2555, and that's the local number, and the overseas number is 1-718-577-2916, 1-718-577-2916. We welcome your calls. Okay. There is no one on the line, so we continue our discussion. Now, Therese, you are involved in tourism research. What are you researching, really?
A lot of times, what we do have is persons who are doing some sort of, maybe it's for SBA or...
Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Williams.
Good afternoon, sir.
And good afternoon to the good guests them there from the tourism department.
Good afternoon.
Enlightening us with the plastic and everything about tourism and our coastal reef where we'll cause in these things. So we know that tourism is our backbone in the Federation right now. and we got to protect our tourist industry. Now, my little input to you. You're all talking about plastic. What about the bottled waters and all those things were in plastic bottle? And Coke and Bryson and all those things that come from the bottling company. All those will be eliminated too? Yeah, I just want you to answer me.
Remember when we started talking, what we said was that we are looking to reduce the amount of plastic. We are realistic enough to realize for the moment that we cannot totally eliminate plastic bottles. But I also want you to know that there are types of plastics that are made from corn cellulose. That's from the corn on the cob. There's a cellulose in that plant that can be used to make something that looks just like a plastic bottle, but it is not plastic, and it is compostable because it's made from a plant. It breaks down much faster than a plastic bottle ever would. What we need to do is start the conversation, reaching out to the businesses that are involved in these things to see how we can get that change. That's why we talk about a wave of change. This is a major change. This is not a small wave. This is a...
Let me finish and then you could talk. Let me finish.
Okay,
Now,
go ahead.
I don't be missing water very often. And I see a lot of tin stuff, like tin can, milk can, juice can, and all those things. Them won't affect fish and affect you with them too? Understand?
Can you repeat?
Yeah, tin stuff.
I'm thinking about the plastic bags, because the bags them take a very hard time to break down. You know, because sometimes you get a plastic bag and it blow all over the place, and sometimes most of it just blow to the sea. And it's very bad for our fish and everything we're out there, so it could be contaminated and we get sick according to what they eat and what they use. But next thing again, what about agriculture? You know, our agriculture department of tourism. Now you see the tourism come here. They're going in KFC still. They're going in Burger King. They're going in all those places still. I believe that those not the place where they should go. Those are visitors. I believe that we're supposed to get something different here with our local breakfast, our local provision, potatoes and all those things. And they could come and patronize our local dish instead of go to them place where they eat every often. Because I believe that we're supposed to attract the tourism to buy our local products, especially in our hotels. Because when you got to eat the same food that they eat back out where they come from. And I think that I would like to see more of that. You know, that they eat more local products when they come here. And not going to KFC and Burger King and pizza and all those things. Anyway, wonderful program. I listen to you.
Thank you. Right. You want to respond to what he said, Diane?
He asked about the tin stuff. Yes, it affects the sea life, but the thing is, with the tin, as he calls it, it breaks down much faster than plastic ever would. So the threat is not as long lasting as the threat of the plastic. With respect to eating more local, and my colleagues can speak to it, we have been promoting that through our having restaurant week every year. But also he has to also be mindful that eating local, they can eat KFC and still eat local because the chicken can be a local chicken. The vegetables for the salad can be local. So even though it has an international franchise, the stuff that they're eating can also be derived from St. Kitts and Nevis, right? Also, that's an opportunity, as he spoke about it, because very often maybe the visitors are patronizing those places because one, they're familiar and they're easily found. We often have visitors, and I've seen this over the years working in tourism. They come off and they ask, where can I get local food to eat? And it's even worse when it's on a Sunday, when a lot of our local
Working for you, good afternoon.
Hello, my good friend Leslie.
Good afternoon, Jam Down.
The topic is so conducive.
Yes, one that you're passionate
I
about.
hear in a voice, it sounds like Daniel. Is that Daniel?
Yes, Mr.
The lady
Manners.
who knows tourism just like the cutting she hands. Oh, she's so dynamite. But Daniel, let me tell you something. Because the Minister of Tourism, he's not paying attention to the liquoring and Port Sante. And on the beaches. And the parameter from Shell right down to the market. And I ain't gonna tolerate it. I won't come at them real hard. You understand? Because we're saying tourists down here. And when you look at the place, especially right in the tourism mouth, you got the Indians them hiring Spanish to clean cheap, and then paying the social security. And by the ship coming 7 o'clock in the morning, they them down here. When the yardman them for you to see clean the port, they bringing out the big bag of garbage, and we got a dumpster over there for it. If I don't clean them, nobody gonna clean them. And then they look so filthy and nasty in front of the stores. But this same Santo Domingo, Daniel. You understand? And the question about her, the fellow Keatley at Solid Waste is trying his best. And tourism got to make an effort to give him real support. I get the guy to bring some litter warden to help us deal with the littering down here. And these immigrants who feel they could come and just think it's like their country. And nobody paying attention. We got police down here watching the littering and ain't doing nothing. They're going to hear me that's why. Because they love this country.
I don't agree with you saying that about Santo Domingo.
Complain what's going on here. I plead to the magistrate them. When I reach out by limo, give me justice. Give me justice. Because they have to keep St. clean. They have to keep it clean. We're not going to tolerate it.
Right.
And I asked Daniel to go back to the tourism, and I asked the ministry to have some interest in what's going on down here in Port Zante. Daniel.
Yes, sir.
I went for lunch just about a day and a half at Mapao. And if you see the state behind the Mapao, well, you see like this big two ship in here now, Daniel?
Yeah.
Half of the crew members gone up there for lunch. And if you see behind there where they got the sewage cover over with marine ply, can't even take water. And to say it's 111 marine ply. The management of Mapao should be ashamed.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Is that the world's biggest ship in the harbour now?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes. Could you play a song for all the passengers and crew on there? I hear a symphony by Diana Ross and the Supremes. Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
With respect to what Jamdong spoke about, we are actually partnering with Solid Waste. Just last week I was speaking to a young lady who works at Solid Waste about the matter. She actually drew it to my attention, and we are seeing how we can work together with them to address the issue. We're not only going to address the Port Zante issue. I mean, yes, it's the face of tourism for the cruise passengers, but we're looking at the entire destination. But I also want people to be mindful that all of us are responsible. Right? Not just the police, not just the litter wardens. All of us are responsible, and all of us need to do something and take action for the place, because our livelihoods depend on it. Right? I wrote down what he said as well about the situation and whatever we can do. That is why we have the Destination Council here. Tourism touches everything. Now, for example, he's bringing up the issue of litter. There is a government agency responsible for litter, not necessarily tourism, but everything touches tourism. And so we created the council so that everybody could be at the same table.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Speaking about the garbage, when you said people asking what is it, why in it for you? Exactly, your health. And when I was small, I used to clean people's yard and shout a little 1, 2 shillings. And they will ask, what you need? I will say, nothing, it's okay. Because at the end of the day, I eat a little 1, 2 foods out the yard and maybe a jelly. But nowadays, you can't even take up a 10 cent for somebody. They need pay for it just to take up a 10 cent. So we got to start like in the community, and it got to start with neighbor by neighbor. And it could happen. And you will surprised to see how much back we will get in a whole community when you get neighbor by neighbor, you throw out your garbage today, you pick out all the bottles before you throw them out. And then collect them maybe by one neighbor or one maybe empty lot by a neighbor or wherever. You put them together, maybe the box, etc. And you do it nice and neat and clean. And you will be surprised to see how everything goes. But I don't want to harm to the human race right now. I don't want to harm to us. But I know we can great do if we coordinate together. Instead of what in it for you. I don't want to tolerate that what in it for you. We can assume for money all the time when we do something for people. We just got to check for the health. A nation wealth is a nation health, so we got to save the youth them are coming from birth. And we got to do it in a nice way. We got to clean up the hood and clean around our community and keep it nice for the youth them are coming for tomorrow. I give thanks.
Discussing the idea, right, of putting for our plastic free day or for plastic free the year, going to each community with a dumpster. Only plastics we want in that dumpster. And everybody said to us, don't even do it. People gonna just throw anything inside it. I mean, I would not like to think that the St. Kitts and Nevis that I live in is so ill-disciplined. I hope that is not the case. I hope that is what used to happen and that 2019, it's a new start. And so we could collect all these plastic in the dumpsters, take them to be recycled and shipped. Because that is what we want to do. Heart of St. Kitts is looking for a project, a recycling project, because Tishana spoke about the fact that we are collecting monies for the Ginnery. That's not the only thing that we are collecting money for. That soca size event is for the Ginnery and some of the other activities we are having. But for example, we are having a catamaran cruise on the 3rd of March. We are raising funds for a recycling project, a recycling initiative. Can we, for example, put something in a community and collect the waste? We will pay for the trucking, the Heart of St. Kitts Foundation, and take away that waste to be compressed and shipped. That is what we're willing to do. But we have to be sure that the people, so the community, it's not going to be Tishana or Daniel from Heart of St. Kitts sitting there watching the bin to make sure somebody doesn't throw in something that's not plastic. The community has to take responsibility for it so that it works. Their community is kept clean and the recycling takes place. That is what we want to do. As a matter of fact, we have been speaking with the organizers of the music festival, which falls under the ministry. Music festival is thinking about going plastic free for 2019. We are looking at reducing the amount of plastics that we generate because we know festivals generate a lot of plastic.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Greetings. We are sorry about that about pending there. We ran out of credit, you know. Yes, concerning what Jamdong was saying, you know, we want to confirm that nastiness, you know. And you know what we observe? We walk all hours of the night, you know, when we're ready, you know. As we're a 24/7 man. And we observe rats running in and out of a lot of these food places at night. In and out. In and out. It's dangerous, and it's nastiness causing these things. Nastiness from those who run these places and the general public. I mean, it just be a nastiness. I heard somebody say one time, in comparison to other Caribbean countries, think it's clean. All right? But observe what is said to be clean. And you see the nastiness. I mean, we're blind. You find all in that kind of government institution or on the police station. I hear them say one time, one police officer say part of the training is to make them go outside, take up a broom and clean the environment. When you walk around past your police station, sometimes the place stink. I mean, what happened? We're not blind. You can't live someone. White people. This is Black History Month. And the truth be told, we try to cross in Europe, across the earth, we teach white people cleanliness. I don't see why people come in and drop no litter in the place. We supposed to be the clean ones. And we turn the nasties. It have to stop. As Jamdang was saying, it cannot continue. And then you find the people them who not born here, so. Them come here, so. And them see the people them, the natives them and live nasty and then just fall in line. I mean, not all of them. I got some clean Spanish and Jamaicans, Guyanese, what say, and keep them place nice. But holy for them just fall in line. And so some of them when we go by where them live, the garbage they're like ornaments from the yard, from the terrible. People can't live so.
Yes, okay, point taken. We really have to keep our environment clean, and that is what, took up a lot of the time in this program, talking about sustainable tourism. And that is what sustainable tourism basically is. Sustainability has to do with how we relate with the environment and the positive impact that we have on the environment. In other words, we try to eradicate all those things that would decrease or diminish the quality of our environment. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, concerning the littering, I don't know who is doing it, but there has been numerous incidents like fresh. It's not something that you're accustomed to see around St. Kitts. But over the past month or so, almost everywhere you go, you see garbage being, like somebody just throw them by a bus stop. Places that you would normally not see garbage. People are littering, and it looks as if it's deliberate. Maybe the solid waste department can go try to, do some surveillance, or maybe hire some litter wardens and dispatch them around the place. But the incidence of littering is on the rise. I really don't know who are doing it. I'm not accustomed to seeing St. Kitts being littered in that way. And we have people cleaning the streets every day. And it seems as if as soon as the people come off the streets, people are throwing things on the road. That's how it looks. Me and my friends were discussing it up to recently. We have never seen littering on such wide scale in St. Kitts before. It seems as if it's deliberate. And who is it? I don't know. All right.
Working for you, good afternoon.
Hello, again.
Hello.
Littering. As the lady said, it's like people that just don't care. On the main road, going to Shadwell, you have a drain there. You have car go over there and change the oil. Mm-hmm. You understand? Yep. And they're leaving the buckles. Up to now, he's a muffler there right now. And he got this man to clean the drain. If he clean them out, and they just there in a garbage bag right here. I mean, you go and you change your oil. You're leaving everything right there. When the gut come down now, all them things gonna go in the sea. All in plastic bottles and you understand? So I don't know, and it's just keeping the place look nasty. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, everybody just passing and everybody just being blind to this. You got ways you could do things, but you're going to do it and still left it nasty. You understand?
Yes.
If you think alike, take a drive. Like you're going New Road past Shadwell going there. And it's right by a bus stop. Mm-hmm. Come on, man. He's only human being we be.
You know what is good about these people who are calling in? At least they are being the conscience of our society in terms of how we must keep our environment clean. Exactly. So while this might be acceptable to some people, and they keep talking, speaking about the nastiness, there are people in our society who are conscious. Yeah. Working for you, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. What I'm calling about, because here in St. Station, we have 2 garbage bins. We have to put the plastic in one and the papers and the normal garbage, we put it in another container. So I think that they have to come up to that, and let people put their garbage, and separate them so that when they reach to you, you have plastic by itself and the bottle by itself and so on. And also on the street, they being strict that you cannot dirty up the street as you like because you'll get boot for it. So you need to push on that. And we also have to pay to carry our garbage out now. So, I mean, you have to step up to that because the people don't care nowadays. When I was a small boy back home, they used to got these inspectors who used to go around and check your yard and make sure everything up to date. So we have to go back to that because people today are not care about what they do. They walk in the street and eat and they dump the garbage anywhere. And so on, these containers that they eat out have rats, rodents, and they're not looking about the health. So today people are very lazy and not thinking of cleanliness. So you have to bring them up to date because we have people who just don't care about the island. As long as they get what they want, they don't care about nobody else. So you have to dig deep in this thing. You got to get serious about the garbage on the street. And I wish you all could get water truck to wash the road and to drain them. For those we smelling bad, in front there, the Chinese has you have a hotel there by the gut there. You need to fix concrete that could move the swamp that does come up from the sea and settle there.
Okay,
so you all have to look into all that because it's close to Fort Zante and it's looking nice.
Okay, thank you so much for your call. Now, Dianil, we have to be wrapping up. We are out of time. But as you can see, a lot of the discussion today focused on how to keep our environment clean, which is basically what we were talking about, sustainable tourism. Yes. And some people may not, have the name of the big word, sustainability, or the unfamiliar word to them, sustainable tourism. But at the very same time, they are hitting the nail on the head. Mm-hmm. That in order for our country and its tourism to be sustainable, we have to maintain a cleanly environment.
Exactly.
A clean environment. Yes. Would you like to say anything before we go?
Yes, I just want to invite the general public to take part in the Heart of St. Kitts weekend activities, more specifically our beach cleanup of the Heritage Beach. We are appealing to especially people in the community of Cayon to come on out and volunteer your time to clean the beach. We also want to make recognition to Miss Sarah from the St. Kitts Sea Turtle Monitoring Network for coming on board with helping us, and also the St. Kitts Youth Volunteer Group. I also want to say special thanks to Mr. Elston Nisbet, Mr. H.E. Ruckus, and Akaya Sweet for coming on board to also volunteer your time in helping to make our events as successful.
Dianil?
Okay, for me, I just want to ask everyone in St. Kitts and Nevis to join the Plastic Free Challenge. Starting today, take up the challenge and reduce the amount of single-use plastics that you use. And I encourage you to take your selfies or selfies and post them tagging Plastic Free SKN, hashtag Plastic Free SKN, hashtag St. Kitts SDC. That's basically it. Take your pictures with your reusable cups, your reusable straws or no straws, which we are even happier about, and also your reusable shopping bags. We are going to have a competition coming up shortly. You don't know, you just might win. But join us in the challenge to make St. Kitts and Nevis plastic free.
Therese?
Again, I would like to say thank you to all our stakeholders, especially the members in the Department of Agriculture who is partnering with us for the garden project in the Bastille High School, as well as to Island Purified Company who have agreed to donate their damaged water bottles to assist us with our repurposing project that we have in the Bastille High School as well. Thank you.
Okay. Charlene?
The grade 5 classes of the Dr. William Connor Primary and Tucker Clark Primary will soon start a recycling project to beautify both their schools. We'll be using tires, and so I'm asking for persons within the region if you can kindly sponsor something towards this project, whether it is paint, a paintbrush, or your time, to help the children who are very much interested in this recycling project for it to be accomplished.
Okay, well, I want to thank all 4 of you for coming on today's program and to discuss such an important area of our development here in St. Kitts and Nevis, that of our tourism industry. And one of the things we heard coming out from the callers, we have very passionate callers. Sometimes they get so passionate that they might start using words and so on. And I totally understand the passion that that is behind it. Yes. And a lot of it has to do with, how we are treating our own country.
Love.
We are littering. There are people who are littering. They don't have the awareness that they should not litter, and how that is affecting our tourism product. And not only our tourism product, it is affecting us as citizens and residents. Littering creates all kind of things, the rats, the unsightliness. It's a health hazard, and we need to stop it. We need to stop it. I want to thank all of our callers to today's program and all of you who listened to today's program. Next week, we will be back, and we are going to have on the panel officials from the Skills Training Empowerment Program, what we call STEP. I am your host, Lesroy Williams. Until then, have a good time.
Working for you. A weekly talk radio program which highlights developments of national interest and the activities of your St. Kitts Nevis government. Join host Lesroy Williams as he presents news, views, reports, and interviews about everything regarding the activities of the Team Unity government and the building of our communities and the development of St. Kitts Nevis. Tune in and call in to interact with your government and share your views regarding the upward forward development